What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Trapped in the US podcast, where we connect the dots between current headline news and biblical prophecy. I'm your host, KB, and today is March 11th, 2024. I'm opening up here with some major breaking news that I want to discuss with you guys today. But before I do, I want to please ask everyone to follow, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's at Trapped in the US. It really helps us as you support the channel, and you get to see all the actual news clippings and not just hear everything over the audio only, but you actually get to see the video as well. So follow us on there, and also on Rumble at Trapped in the US. And also we have a Patreon account, and I ask everyone to please subscribe to the Patreon account. It's at patreon.com/trapped in the US podcast. And you can see the same videos as you can on YouTube, but you also have the ability to give and support our channel $5 a month or $10 a month, whichever one you prefer. This helps me be able to continue to bring you these news casts, and also tie everything in with biblical prophecy and be able to speak with you guys concerning those things, and continue to do this ministry. So please support the channel if you feel led to. And if you have any suggestions, or if you have any news clippings as well that you'd like to send to me, or have an email you want to send over, just send it to askkb at trappedintheus.com. Ask KB at trappedintheus.com. Okay, before we get started, I want to just share something real fast. I've had some feedback already from some listeners and people that support the channel who are really excited to hear the news coming from this channel and how it gets all tied into scripture and also biblical prophecy, and some of the different prophecies that are coming out, and just the uniqueness of it. But also, some people have asked some questions, about how I feel about America, or about Israel, about other countries, because some of the news that gets spoken of, and even the prophecies that get spoken of, sometimes downplay America or Israel or other countries. And I just want to make a clear statement. I absolutely love my country. I love the United States of America. I'm born and raised here, a U.S. citizen from birth. And I am a proud son of a veteran who fought in World War II to defend our country as well, alongside the military that we have currently serving to defend our country. And I love our principles in our country. I love the foundation that this country was built upon and laid. And I have nothing that I personally want more than to see our country return back to its roots, and to undo some of the damage that we've done to ourselves and also to other nations. But who am I? I'm just a regular old citizen, pays their taxes, and does what every other American citizen does here. I have no qualms with Israel. I love the Israeli people. I have nothing against the Jewish race of any kind. I love Israel. I hope to go visit one day and actually see Jerusalem and walk the streets there. I think when I talk about the things that's happening with the war in the Middle East, and with Palestinians and Israel and the powers that be that are over that, I think we all can understand, just as much as the citizens here in America, that we're not personally the ones fighting these wars. And we're not probably the people that want the war. I would say most of the citizens want peace and resolvement, and trust, and want our leaders to lead our countries in a peaceful environment. And even if we have to rise up and defend our country, we do it with honor and integrity. We're not purposely trying to destroy nations. But we have other people that rule the world. We have elites and high-end people who have sold their souls to Lucifer himself, And these guys are in control, and they are doing all the damage. They're pulling all the strings, and those people have strings they're pulling in America. They have strings they're pulling in Israel. Their strings are pulling all over the place. So I am not against America by any means. I fully love and support my country and Israel as well as a nation. I just do not like at all some of the things that our country is doing and Israel is doing against the Palestinian people, and the genocide potentially that's taking place over there, which not even potentially is taking place over there, and the seemingly reckless abandonment that our leaders in this nation are leading America into World War III, without considering the millions of people's lives that are being lost, or will be lost in the process in the handling of our country. So I just want to make a clear statement in that regard so you guys know and understand how I feel about that, and that there's clarity to that environment, because some emails have come in across that asking those questions. So I just want to make sure you guys understand that. Meanwhile, let's deep dive into World War III and some of the news headlines that I have coming in right now. First off, let's jump right in. Right here, we have this article: NATO fighter jets get the green light to carry nukes as tensions with Russia soars. So this article is talking about all the NATO fighters right now, different countries who have fighter jets, F-35s, F-16s, Joint Strike Fighters have been certified to carry thermonuclear weapons as tensions between Russia and NATO hit a breaking point. Guys, this is so serious. Listen, so NATO jets now have the green light. That means at any time a F-35, an F-16, or any NATO jets are in the air, in Russia's eyes, they could be carrying nukes. In Russia's eyes, they could be coming to drop those nukes on their country. And until uh, somebody stops this madness, it's eventually going to take place. So why would they green light these jets to be able to carry nukes if they didn't have the intention of being able to do that at some point? A NATO stealth fighter has been certified to carry nukes, including the terrifying B-61-12 thermonuclear gravity bomb, as tensions between NATO and Russia hit a boiling point. The F-35A Joint Strike Fighter has become the first stealth fighter of its class to be greenlit to carry nuclear weapons. Spokesman for the F-35 Joint Program Office told Breaking Defense the F-35A is the first fifth-generation nuclear-capable aircraft ever, and the first new platform to achieve this status since the early 1990s. This F-35 nuclear certification effort culminates 10 years of intense effort across the nuclear enterprise, which consists of 16 different government and industry stakeholders. So they've been working hard and long to get these nukes up on these jets so they can have the capability of dropping these at any time on whoever unsuspecting down below. Here we go again. Another article confirmation: F-35s certified to carry nuclear bombs. The U.S. fifth generation fighter jet has been officially certified to carry B-61-12 free fall nuclear bombs. This announcement was made on Friday by a spokesman for the F-35 Joint Program Office, Russ Goemeyer, in a statement to Breaking Defense magazine. The 10-year certification program, originally set to be completed by January, has been concluded ahead of schedule. So we now have every F-35, every F-16 potentially, but definitely F-35 that's in the sky right now could be carrying a nuclear weapon. Today, right now, March 11th, 2024, I guarantee you there's an F-35 somewhere in the sky. And how do we know they're not carrying a nuclear weapon that can literally drop free-for-all nuclear bombs wherever they want on whoever unsuspecting below? Some jet somewhere is carrying these. Well, All of them now have the green light to be able to carry these. Next article, we got EU must develop battle-winning weapons. Von der Leyen, the European Commission president, has urged member states to turbocharge the bloc's arms manufacturing industry over the next 5 years. So they're ready to jump in. The EU are saying we need not just more of the same weapons, but we need new weapons. We need weapons people don't even know about. We need weapons that can cripple our enemies that they're unsuspecting we have. And we go into that article where she's addressed Congress of the European People's Party in Bucharest, Romania on Thursday. Von der Leyen said the bloc needs to turbocharge our defense industrial capability in the next 5 years. She added that this push would help us fill the urgent need to rebuild, replenish, and modernize member states' armed forces. In doing so, Europe should strive to develop and manufacture the next generation of battle-winning operational capabilities. The Commission's president remarks came after the EU's executive body presented its strategy for improving the bloc's defense industry on Tuesday. The document calls, among other things, for the streamlining of arms procurement among member states and reducing dependence on the U.S. defense industry. So they're reinforcing their capabilities, and they want to make sure they have next generation weaponry. What is that next generation weaponry? Well, we can only imagine, because the weapons that they're using right now, which we'll go into later on in the podcast, are already next generation. So the next generation stuff, who knows what they're talking about, but nothing wrong with a country wanting to make sure they're able to defend their country and have the latest weaponry to be able to defend their nation and their homeland. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying the obvious as these news articles continue to build up that they are all building towards World War III. Let's continue. Next article, World News. British and French troops are on the ground in Ukraine, operating cruise missiles to attack Russian troops. Okay, guys, this is major. This is major. Okay, all the way up to this point, the whole war in Russia and Ukraine has been between technically Ukraine and Russia. Okay, and NATO nations are just waiting for that Article 5 to be triggered so they can get into this war and start literally fighting Russia directly. But until that happens, until that Article 5 is triggered by either nation, it's only a proxy war. Okay, so we know that all of the Western countries are funding Ukraine. These are our drones, right? These are our planes. These are our weapons that are taking down Russian ships that are attacking Russian properties and cities. Okay, and Russia knows that, and we know that, but we are not to have any we're not to have any NATO troops in Ukraine doing the fighting. Even if we are advising, okay, that's a very slim slope to walk on at this point, okay? But to know now that we actually have British and French troops who are there on the ground in Ukraine operating the cruise missiles that are literally attacking Russian troops. Okay, this is huge. This is a reason to trigger Article 5 if Russia wanted to. Shocking revelations from the British press reveal the British General Staff, led by Admiral Tony Radakin, directly participated in the attack on Russia Black Sea Fleet ships, and that German Chancellor Olaf Scholz confirmed British and French troops are in Ukraine operating cruise missiles to hit Russian targets. Russian reaction to these revelations has been blunt. Quote, "This proves Britain and France have attacked Russia. We have the right to respond militarily," unquote, said one high-ranking Russian official. So they know they have a right to attack Britain and France. They have a literal right. Article 5 has been triggered by us. Russia didn't trigger it. We triggered it. Going on further, here we go. British military chief helped Zelensky destroy warships. Admiral Sir Tony Ratigan has postponed his retirement as chief of the defense staff by a year to continue offering advice to Ukraine. The story makes clear Admiral Tony Ratigan and his general staff have been key to Ukraine sinking Russian vessels. Meanwhile, The Independent in Britain revealed comments made by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who said Germany will not be sending Kiev of any of Germany's Taurus missiles. Berlin's version of the Storm Shadow missiles, pointing to a risk of his country becoming directly involved in the war, referring to the UK and French assistance to Ukraine. On Monday, he said that German soldiers could not follow the lead of the British and French allies in the way of target control and accompanying target control. By saying that, Scholz revealed that French and British troops are, in fact, controlling the targeting and guidance to target of weapons, like the cruise missiles, and are thus responsible for Russian targets being hit. Stunningly, rather than try to walk back what Scholz said, Norbert Röttgen, a senior lawmaker from the CDU, the former ruling party of Angela Merkel, said the chancellor's statement regarding France and Britain's alleged involvement in operating long-range cruise missiles used by Ukraine is completely irresponsible. From Britain, the similar amazing reaction from former chairman of the Commons Defense Committee, Tobias Ellwood, who said this is a flagrant abuse of intelligence deliberately designed to distract from Germany's reluctance to arm Ukraine with its own long-range missiles, unquote. Okay, so they're pissed that the Germany Prime Minister Scholz has let the cat out the bag, and he didn't even try to walk it back. He did it on purpose to make sure Russia knew it's Britain, it's France, it's not my troops who are there. But that won't be for long, as we'll see later on in the podcast. Let's continue. Ukraine sinks Russian Navy ship Sergei Kostov in Kerch Strait. So here's the proof. This is on March 5th, 2024. Intelligence of the MOD of Ukraine in a statement said that they sunk a $65 million Russian patrol ship named the Sergei Kostov near the Kerch Strait using Margura V5 naval drones. Here's a picture of it if you guys are watching video. Vessel was a 22160 Baikov class corvette seen in the file photo below. As of Tuesday morning, traffic on the Kerch Strait Bridge is still stopped. No vehicles are permitted to cross it. No one is saying if the attack last night was damaged the bridge or not. Dmitry Medvedev, writing on his Telegram channel, confirmed the story. Quote, overnight, Ukraine's naval drones found the Russian Navy stealth patrol ship Sergei Kostov in the Kerch Strait by the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov, damaged her stern and both sides, and sank her, unquote. Guys, how are we not in nuclear war right now? How has a nuclear bomb not dropped already? As this podcast continues, you guys are going to see this is boiling over to beyond madness what is happening right now. Okay, we literally have British and French troops and military in Ukraine shooting Russian ships and sinking them. Who would have ever thought in our lifetime we would see this happen? Who would have ever thought in our lifetime? More news here. Ukraine drone bombs St. Petersburg, Russia. Okay, so we got drones from Ukraine are flying into Russia, dropping bombs on their cities. These drones are not made in Ukraine, guys. These drones are coming from America, NATO nations. Who knows which drone came from where, but it came from NATO, operated by foreign NATO troops or military who are targeting these drones, who are targeting these attacks directly inside of Russia. We're directly attacking Russia on its soil. Call it a proxy, call it what you want. The cat's out the bag. Everyone knows NATO is in Ukraine doing these things directly under Ukrainian airspace. And Zelensky is just firing the flame. He's continuing to just drool over this opportunity that all these other countries are coming to help him. And um, I just grieve because I know this is going to get very, 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 very. It's going to get unbearable at some point. It's going to trigger nuclear war, guys. We do not have much time. Continuing on here. So these bombs rocked the Russian city of St. Petersburg early Saturday when a drone crashed into an apartment block. Explosion occurred in the northern part of the city, and the facade of a residential block was seriously damaged. St. Petersburg Mayor Alexander Beglov declined to say whether it was a drone strike. Local residents report that before the explosion, they heard the sound of an engine and saw a bright flash in the sky. Debris fell next to one of the houses from an unmanned aerial vehicle. The likely target of the Ukrainian UAV was the Ruchi oil depot in the northeast of St. Petersburg, less than a kilometer from the crash site. Okay, let's keep it moving, guys. You ready for this? Here we go. Next headline: Russia moving nuclear missiles nationwide. And if you're seeing this on video, there's a huge nuclear weapon on the back of this truck. And there's trucks right now, or have been moving since the end of February, moving into March. Russia's been moving nuclear missiles all around Russia, all around its borders, all around its different, taking them out of storage, taking them out of hiding, taking them and positioning them for nuclear war. Guys, right now, this is real. This is not a movie. This is not something that we're just imagining. You're not hearing about any of this again on CNN. You're not hearing about any of this on Fox News, on MSNBC. You're not hearing any of this news anywhere in America. They don't want you to know how terrible things are in America. They don't, media and the people who control, the elite who control the media, do not want anyone in America to understand the terrible depths of madness that things are getting into across the sea in the other parts of the world. This is why this podcast has been opened and birthed for this purpose, is to make sure that people in America and around the world know what's really going on, what's really happening, getting you the news that you're not getting from anywhere else. Very few sources are giving you the news in this way, and then tying them into scripture and biblical prophecy. Okay. So right now, I'm just letting you know, in response, as these things are happening, that I've been reading these news headlines, Russia is currently moving nuclear missiles across the nation to prepare for nuclear war. All right. Next headline. Here's another interesting thing that happened. And we've seen a couple of cyber attacks over the last week or two. But here's one bulletin: GPS jammed from Copenhagen to Warsaw to Berlin. So right now there's a huge there's a huge war testing that's going on in Poland and Finland and other parts of Eastern Europe, where NATO has 90,000 troops over there right now. Okay, they're all practicing war drills. They're all preparing for the real deal. And during these war drills, GPS was jammed from Copenhagen all the way to Warsaw to Berlin. And you see on this picture here from the video, if you guys can see all the different locations. So this means that if Russia was behind this, that all those different NATO troops, all those different NATO nations that were participating in this weren't able to communicate with each other, or at least weren't able to see the other using GPS. All of that was completely jammed. So they literally didn't know where they were going from one second to the next. Is Russia bluffing? The article says GPS is now jammed from Kaliningrad, Russia, to about Copenhagen, Denmark, down to Warsaw, Poland, all the way to Berlin. NATO's Steadfast Defender exercise is literally crippled as its high-tech GPS-guided weaponry can't work. NATO's steadfast defender exercise is the biggest for very, very many years. It's very much perceived in Russia as a serious threat. Questions are now being asked: was this a test? Or is Russia going to attack, given the covertly intercepted conversation by German military big shots about attacking the Crimea Bridge, which we'll talk about here in a second, but hiding Germany's planning and participation of it? Questions take on a far more serious overtone with the earlier incursion by two NATO F-16s and one NATO F-35, all the way from Romania, entered Ukraine airspace for 32 minutes. I have another article that's going to speak on this today as well, here in just a few minutes. They didn't attack anything, but the F-35 was clearly seeking and locating Russian radar in and around Crimea. This is getting more dangerous every day, from one day to the next, guys. The West, through NATO, is engaging in very provocative acts, the article says. All right, here's an interesting article. One of the bizarre articles, I guess, I can talk about today. And check this out. And this isn't from the Jerusalem Post, okay? Russian weathermen, quote, conditions ideal for nuclear strike on NATO. Imagine a guy in front of a weather piece. He's doing his little bit for his news channel, okay? And he's bringing you the news, and he's talking about the weather that's coming in, all the storms or whatever else is going on. And just as a byline, he tells you, oh, and by the way, the weather is perfectly ideal for a nuclear strike on NATO, by the way. Who are these people? Russian President Vladimir Putin told Western countries late February at the annual State of the Union address that they risked provoking a nuclear war if they sent troops to fight in Ukraine. Russian weatherman Evgeny Tishkovets told media anchor and Putin-backed propagandist Vladimir Sololov that conditions are ideal for a nuclear strike on member countries of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Vladimir Sololov has been an anchor on the television show Evening with Vladimir Solyakov on Russia One since 2012. Journalist Julia Davis, who is a creator of the Russian media monitor watchdog organization, posted a clip of Solyakov talking with Tishkovets on his show on X, formerly on Twitter, Friday. Most importantly, you should clearly say how our missiles can precisely strike NATO targets and that the weather won't get in their way. Despite the challenging meteorological conditions, the missiles reached their targets. The avant-garde struck. Paris is on fire, Solyakov said in the clip, according to a translation by Russian media monitor. Today, quote, the weather is ideal for conducting nuclear strikes against NATO countries, unquote. Tishkovets responded. The air currents are directed in non-traditional ways, not from the west to the east, but from the east to the west. The radioactive clouds will travel towards those countries that are sending arms and mercenaries to fight against our army, unquote. Whew. This is what the people in Russia are listening to on their weather channel. Our weather channel, we got guys hanging out in crazy suits with 110-mile-an-hour winds, blowing them down the street while they hold a microphone, trying to bring us the news and not get hit by a stop sign. And they're talking about news. Meanwhile, the weather channel in Russia is talking about wind patterns that might be most ideal for NATO to be nuclearized. This is crazy, guys. How much crazier can it get? Here's the next article, as we was talking about earlier. Flash, 2 NATO F-16s and 1 F-35 enter Ukraine airspace. Guys, we just talked about this a little bit ago. All these F-16s and F-35s have been cleared to carry nuclear weapons by NATO. All of them can be carrying a nuclear weapon. And here's 2 F-16s and 1 F-35 entered Ukraine airspace. How does Russia not know that they're going to drop a nuclear bomb on them? How do they not know? Wouldn't they defend themselves against a potential nuclear attack by NATO? Wouldn't they return the fire and drop the same kind of weaponry on us? Like we're playing We're playing chess here, and there's no winner at the end of this chess game. As the article continues, aircraft from NATO country air forces entered the territory of Ukraine to practice strikes on Crimea today. So, if they just got green lighted to carry nuclear weapons, does that mean that they're going to drop a nuke on Crimea? Is this what they're practicing for? Just speculation, guys, but you can see through the lines here. This comes against the background of a published conversation between German generals about the attacks on the Crimea Bridge. So we'll get to that in just a second. It's another article. 3 NATO aircraft flew into Ukraine airspace from Romania today. The planes simulated missile strikes from the territory of the Mykolaiv region in the Crimea and the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Federation. This entire operation lasted about 32 minutes, after which all the planes left Ukrainian airspace. It is now known that American fighters donated to Ukraine will be based in Romania. The peculiarity of the F-16s is their need for runways, which are perfectly smooth. There's no such runways anywhere in Ukraine, as Russia has bombed them all. All right, here we go. Here's the article, guys. So, audio recording, the next news headline, from German army officers discussing destruction of Crimea Bridge with Taurus missiles. So basically, what this is saying, I'll get into a little bit of it, is there was a conversation between German army officers that was recorded by Russia. Okay, they got a copy of it. Somehow it was leaked. Okay, and all these German officers were discussing how they could destroy the Crimea Bridge with Taurus missiles and deflect blame from themselves and move it in other directions as to not alert Russia or anybody else that it was literally coming from Germany. We don't need to remind anybody about the history of Germany, okay? I don't need to even go into that, but for them to be trying to, after the history of what they've had and what's happened between the Nazis and Russia in the 1940s, okay, this is crazy. This is crazy pie, all right? Another article, Margarita Simonian, editor-in-chief of RT, and Rosia Segodnia, Sputnik's parent media group, said she had obtained an audio recording of high-ranking officers in the German Bundeswehr discussing how they will bomb the Crimean Bridge. The recording lasts 40 minutes. German officers mentioned colleagues from the United States and Britain discussing that these people have been directly involved in the conflict for a long time. What does this mean? Isn't it time for Russia to actively remind Germany of what happened the last time when Russian bridges were blown up? It is necessary to send a request to the Bundestag to investigate the information about the recording of German officers discussing plans to attack the Crimea Bridge, said the chairman of the Russian State Duma, Volodin. A Bundeswehr Air Force inspector who took part in the discussion of the strike on the Crimea Bridge is heard saying he already allowed the transfer of 100 Taurus missiles to Kiev in 2 batches. This is terrible, guys. The German military discussed possibility of attacking with these missiles using a Dassault Rail fighter, as follows from the transcript published by Simonian, editor-in-chief of RT. The representative of the Bundeswehr said that the Taurus missiles, when delivered to Ukraine, will be ready for use in 8 months. One of the participants in the conversation doubted whether the strike on the bridge would be effective and asked the question of how many missiles it would take. It may not require 10 or even 20. Issue of transferring Taurus missiles to Kiev has been discussed. Bundestag recently adopted a draft resolution on the supply of long-range weapons, but without specifying the type. At the same time, German Chancellor Scholz has repeatedly stated that he is against such supplies. The German military, in a document published by Simonian, touches on this topic. One of those present says no one knows why the Chancellor is blocking these supplies. Yet, apparently, 100 of those missiles have already been shipped, whether the Chancellor approved it or not. If convincing refutations and evidence do not follow, we will have to radically reconsider the true role of Germany in the Ukrainian conflict, Deputy Chairman of the Russian Federal Council, Kosajev, commented on the German officers' negotiations. And the next article here, just confirming this, is from Zero Hedge. General discuss secrets of Ukraine war using off-the-shelf video phone tech, one dialed in from a hotel room. So these guys were doing these phone calls on their WhatsApp and on their video phone. They're doing FaceTime and they're dialing in from their hotels and they're doing all these talks about all this stuff. And it was completely hacked and recorded. And Russia got a hold of it. So no security here. These guys are just flagrantly talking in the wind. And it's 2024, guys. We're not in the 1800s or early 1900s. They can hear everything you're saying from a satellite in the sky. There's nowhere to run and hide. And certainly they got their hand in the cookie jar here. So again, the head of the Luftwaffe told Air Force officers in a journal who dialed it from his hotel room how British and French officials were delivering storm shadows to Ukrainian soldiers. The publication further blasted it as among the German government's worst security breaches since the Cold War. Yeah, you could say that. General Gerhardt also confirmed in the conversation that British troops are on the ground in Ukraine. But while admitting that the leaked audio, which first appeared in Russia's RT last Friday after it was obtained by RT, is authentic, Berlin is also claiming this is part of a Kremlin plot to destabilize Germany. No, Germany sounds like you destabilized yourself, and Russia just lets you know that they hear what you're doing. And if you're going to be so careless to have these conversations in the open wind, you just destabilized yourself. Way to go. The Telegraph relays the new German military statement. Boris Pistorius, I guess because he's pissed, the German defense minister said on Sunday that Vladimir Putin was using the recording to try to destabilize Germany, sowing divisions within the information war. In the call, Ingo Gerhardt, the Luftwaffe Air Force Lieutenant General, discusses the possible delivery of German Taurus missiles, which have a longer range and are more precise than Storm Shadows. Guys, Germany's supplying Taurus missiles to Ukraine to be used to hit Russia targets targeted by British and France military, and we're already taking down Russian ships. Okay, let me ask y'all a question. If an American warship was taken down at one of our coasts and it was found out, okay, that Russia did it and it was responsible for one of our defense ships, how would America feel? What would we do? What would we do? What kind of, I mean, at least and I'm not no Russian sympathizer, okay? I'm just calling it as I see it from all sides, okay? And I'm telling you right now, if any of our warships were attacked in one of our ports in America, our country would go nuts. Our people would go nuts. Our military would go nuts. And whoever did it would have been wiped out and bombed long ago. So the fact that there are NATO troops in Ukraine that's not supposed to be there, targeting Russian ships, all right, overwhelmingly approving nuclear weapons being able to be dropped through F-16s and F-35s that are flying through Ukraine this week. And Russian ships have been already bombed and sank this week, okay? And Russia has not nuked us yet. I mean, you got to give it credit. Like these guys patience in this war. And I know every people that are listening, you're probably thinking you're just a certain. Listen, I'm not for any side. If anything, I'm for America. Okay. If anything, I'm for my own country in the defense of my own country. But if this was happening to America on our borders right now, if Ukraine was really Mexico, all right, and this was happening, and Russia was sending all these different weapons into Mexico, and Mexicans were shooting these weapons into America, and then some of our ships get downed, How is America not bombing Russia the same day? But that's not what's happening here with them. That's not what they're doing. And as we go on later in the podcast, you'll see they're actually still trying to have a conversation with us. Let's continue, okay? Another article here from Zero Hedge. Germany confirms leaked audio of its top generals discussing blowing up the Crimean Bridge. So Germany didn't deny it. They're not saying this didn't happen and this is just some high AI tech. They actually said this is real. This is a smoking gun revelation. Germany has confirmed the authenticity of the leaked audio recording file, and it's under investigation. Apparently, Schultz is pissed off about it. And German Defense Ministry spokeswoman confirmed that the ministry believes a conversation in the Air Force Division was intercepted. We're currently unable to say for certain whether changes were made to the recorded or transcribed version that is circulating on social media. The spokeswoman said experts consulted by Der Spiegel magazine said they believe the recording was authentic. So, guys, this is real. This is real, and they're not even denying that it happened. So Russia isn't making up the conversation. This isn't some propaganda tape that they made and they're putting names at it. No, this conversation really happened. And they're just letting everybody know we hear you. You're not hiding anything from us. And we got to do better than that, guys. This is sloppy, ridiculous. And the lives of millions and millions of people across our planet hang in the balance of this stupidity. Next article. A complete disaster for the German government. Schultz promises probe into very serious leaked recording of plan to destroy Crimean Bridge. Okay, so we're done with that. We're going to keep moving on. Next article here. European Union to propose war economy mode for Russia-Ukraine fight. So they're going into war economy mode, okay? They're getting ready to prepare all the countries involved in the European Union are preparing for war, guys. European Union Commission, seemingly intent on committing continental suicide, will propose on Tuesday to boost weapons production capabilities and enter a war economy mode over the Russia-Ukraine conflict. According to government sources, Thierry Breton, the European Industry Commissioner, will propose encouraging EU countries to buy more weapons together from European companies and to help such weapons manufacturing companies to increase production capacity. We need to change the paradigm and move into war economy mode. This also means the European defense industry must take more risks with our support. Notice the words defense industry. Okay, guys. Follow the prophets. With former U.S. presidential Donald Trump heading for another potential election victory. Here's the key, guys. Listen in on this. With former U.S. President Donald Trump heading for another potential election victory, Breton went on to say, in the current geopolitical context, Europe must take greater responsibility for its own security, regardless of the outcome of our allies' elections every 4 years. Trump has previously demanded that NATO member countries meet their financial obligation to spend at least 2% of their gross domestic product on defense. Most EU countries still do not meet that obligation. So they know, guys, Trump is not really a NATO fan. He, during his presidency, tried to either tried to get us out of NATO or got us out of NATO. And we were brought back in, or those agreements were strengthened once Biden was brought back in. And how much would NATO be splintered in their minds? They're letting you know here right now. Okay, this is how this election dynamic is playing into all this. They got to get this war going. They got to get it going now. The battle is on, because if Trump wins the election and decides to pull the plug on NATO, then they have no chance of getting to Russia and defeating Russia and getting that land of Ukraine and doing whatever they want to do with Ukraine which we'll find out later some of their ideas, okay, in the podcast. So this is putting even more pressure to do this, to get this war going before the November elections, guys, so they can ensure they have their war and all the millions of people's lives that are going to be destroyed in the process. Absolute ridiculous, absolute craziness, guys. Next article, Zero Hedge. EU pushing arms industry to war economy mode while seeking to Trump-proof itself, okay? Continuing right here, Russia's war in Ukraine, which at the moment is going very badly for Ukrainians and their NATO backers, in what by now can be more appropriately called a proxy war, is causing Europe to shift to a war economy mode. Urgent preparation for such a shift is precisely what's being proposed by the European Commission on Tuesday, as several European Union countries are desperately seeking to revive and boost their arms production industry. Also, at the moment, the Zelensky government is begging for more weapons and artillery shells to hold off the steady Russian advance in the east. Quote, "We need to change the paradigm and move into a war economy mode. This also means that the European defense industry must take more risks with our support," the European Industry Commissioner is pushing the proposal theory, Britain said, unquote. He's laying out a package which promotes expanding arms production capacity and incentivizes countries to purchase more weapons. Breton, a French former tech company CEO, has also said the possibility of another U.S. presidential term for Donald Trump, who has questioned Washington's commitments to NATO, means Europe has to do more to protect itself. In the current geopolitical context, Europe must take greater responsibility for its own security, regardless of the outcome of our allies' elections every 4 years. So Europe is busy trying to Trump-proof itself. If Trump were reelected, we would face a situation in Europe that has not occurred since the end of World War II, said Norbert Röttgen, a veteran German lawmaker and ex-chair of the Bundestag Foreign Affairs Committee. Europe would have to stand up for its own security in an unprecedented way. Guys, this is so serious. Listen, this is so serious. This is so serious and getting out of hand. And time is ticking, okay? November is just a few months away. Trump is pretty much locked in, the Republican candidate, and we got Biden who's trying to get it locked in, and here we are repeating the same battle we went through 3.5 years ago, which was absolute craziness. Nobody wants to be in this position. Nobody in America wants this. I saw a poll today that said 30% approve of Biden, 36% approve of Trump, and the other 30% don't want neither of them. We don't want neither of them. I would say most people that don't want neither of them take everything and throw it away and start over from scratch, because nothing is working. And we are all in grave danger. All right, everyone in our country and everyone across the world, we are all in grave danger right now. World War III is playing out right now, and nuclear weapons are being moved on both sides, NATO and Russia, to be used. And all it takes is one drop, and everything is over, guys. And right now, they are literally drooling over the idea of pushing the red button. Okay. And we're all hanging a balance. You got to pray and get your life right with God. Okay. We're going to keep moving on here. Covert Intel Europe. This is interesting. So apparently, China has cut off its export of gunpowder and cotton nitrocellulose from all European countries. As such, European arms manufacturers cannot readily manufacture gunpowder anymore. This is huge, guys. Listen to this. China constitutes about 25% of the world's gunpowder exports. So the Europeans certainly will not be able to get some, but not nearly what they need if they will, what they will need if they are planning war with Russia. Moreover, getting the gunpowder is not nearly as important as getting the cotton. While gunpowder is necessary for small arms ammunition, nitrocellulose is what is needed for artillery shells. Chemically treated cotton fibers, which become nitrocellulose, act as a propellant, and that is what is needed for the extended range artillery shells. No nitrocellulose means no artillery shelling because regular gunpowder just won't provide the necessary distance. The bluster coming out of Europe about them expanding their military manufacturing capability and moving into a war economy isn't going anywhere if they can't get gunpowder or cotton for nitrocellulose. And right now they can't. All of this as Europe continues to poke the Russian bear over Ukraine. Guys, you're not hearing this news from anywhere else. You're not getting this news from anywhere. Okay, China is obviously helping Russia. There is a battle for the New World Order that is happening right now, and you got the Western side who's been running the New World Order since World War II, and we got the new guys, we got the BRICS nations, all right, who are trying to take over and run the next New World Order, and these guys are helping each other just like the West helps each other. Okay, they are their own NATO. They have their own countries. They have their own money, and China is definitely helping and assisting, even if it means that they're cutting off supplies, losing money from the exports just to help a friend. This is getting so serious, guys. How much that confounds this war economy mode that Europe's hoping to get. Next news from RT here. German MP calls for attack on government buildings in Moscow. I mean, do they think that they're just Russia's going to bow down and roll over and nothing's going to happen and they're not going to respond? Are they taking their patience and just a slow divisive, just a decisive manner in which they're responding to everything happening, that they're weak? This is a major nuclear power. All right. America and Russia are major nuclear powers. The European Union, they have several countries, okay, that carry nuclear weapons. All these guys, okay, are all running into the fire. And they're just throwing out these headlines. They're throwing out these things, just calling for absolute madness. And nobody, well, we'll see. There's one person, surprisingly, who's trying to help everyone wave the right flag, and even he's getting dissed, which is very rare. Let's keep going here. Next news article: Germany moving to restore military draft. So in response, okay, their hands been caught in a cookie jar. Now they've got to prepare for the ultimate. Okay, they've got to call up the military. They got to call their sons and grandsons to the war that they supposedly don't want to be involved in, but now they have no choice because they're secretly supplying weapons to Ukraine. Germany is planning to return compulsory conscription to the army. The head of the German Defense Ministry, Boris Pistorius, has ordered the preparation of proposals to restore compulsory military service. According to government documents, Pistorius intends to seek the return of conscription before the elections to the Bundestag, which will be held in the fall of 2025. The relevant proposals, according to Pistorius' orders, should be prepared by April 1st. Germany suspended compulsory military conscription in 2011 and switched to professional troops. Okay, so as we speak right now, Russia has called up over 1 million people in their military draft. Ukraine has called up hundreds of thousands of their precious sons and grandsons to the war who have been killed in this war. They even drafted women, and if you were pregnant, they still put a gun in your hand. All right. Israel has called up hundreds of thousands in conscription. We're now talking about Germany, okay, and European countries are now preparing for military drafts where, all right, you're compulsed, all right, you're forced to have to join and fight for your country, okay? You have no choice in the matter, and they will stop you at the airport, they will stop you at the border, and they will turn you right back around and put you and your children and your children's children on that bus and send them off to a war that you don't want. that you don't want to be involved in, because we all want our children to grow up in a world that has peace, that has a future that we cherish, that we enjoy. We want our children to go to college. We want them to get married, to have children, and be successful in their own right. But the people that are running the planet right now could care less. All they want is their war. And however many lives they've got to take, that's going to cost them to get what they want at the end of the day, they're going to do it. And there's no one seemingly trying to stop them, or very few people. Next article, senior Russian military colonel, possibility of full-scale war in Europe not ruled out, growing significantly. A senior Russian military official warns that the conflict in Ukraine could escalate into a full-scale war in Europe, and says the probability of Moscow's forces becoming involved in a new conflict is increasing significantly. Colonel General Vladimir Zarutnitsky, head of the Russian Army's Military Academy of the General Staff, made the comments in an article from Military Thought, a Defense Ministry publication. The state RIA news agency reported on Thursday. The possibility of an escalation, quote, the possibility of an escalation of the conflict in Ukraine from the expansion of participants in proxy forces used for military confrontation with Russia to a large-scale war in Europe cannot be ruled out, unquote. RIA cited him as saying, the main source of military threats to our state is the anti-Russian policy of the United States and its allies. The first country he named is the United States. The main source, let me read it again. The main source of military threats to our state, to Russia, is the anti-Russian policy of the United States and its allies, who are conducting a new type of hybrid warfare in order to weaken Russia in every possible way, limit its sovereignty, and destroy its territorial integrity. The likelihood of our state being purposefully drawn into new military conflict is significantly increasing. So they're saying it right here, guys. I mean, it's right plain as day. America has a target on its head. We're the cause. We're the number one cause in their minds. Forget about what's right or what's wrong. In their minds, what are they thinking? What are the Russian military complex thinking right now? And right now, the number one military threat to them is the U.S. and its allies, led by the U.S., okay? The war in Ukraine has triggered the deepest crisis in Russia's relations with the West since 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, and President Vladimir Putin has warned that the West risks provoking a nuclear war if it sends troops to fight in Ukraine. It's too late. We already have troops there, and Britain has troops there. France has troops there. We got Taurus missiles from Germany already there. We've got drones from America already there. We got F-16s flying in from Romania. We got F-35s flying in from Romania, who have a green light to carry nuclear weapons and drop them on Russian targets. We have British colonels and generals who are targeting Russian ships and sinking them in the Black Sea. Okay, we are already there. So we already have provoked a nuclear war. Putin has cast his decision, as it continues, to send tens of thousands of troops into Ukraine in February 2022 as a special military operation designed to secure Russia's own security against an increasing hostile U.S.-backed Ukrainian leadership. Kyiv says it is defending itself against an imperial-style war of conquest designed to erase its national identity. Zarudnitsky's comments come at a time when the West is scrambling to help Ukraine with more arms and financing after Kiev's failed counteroffensive last summer and after Russian forces regained the initiative on the battlefield. Zarudnitsky's advocated a number of changes in the way Russia organizes its military and security, including placing greater emphasis on relying on what he called friendly countries to ensure Russia's own security and consolidating the whole of Russian society around its defense needs. Next article, Russia, next European target, Moldova. The Kremlin foments trouble in the breakaway region of Transnistria. We talked about this in the last podcast. So Transnistria is filled with Russian speaking people who love Russia and there happen to be in the middle or on the edge of Moldova, which is another country on the edge between Ukraine and Russia, and they want to break off, and they want Russia to help them break off. That means that Moldova could potentially be the next target for Russia to expand their territory. So what did Moldova do? Well, next article in Reuters here. Moldova signs defense pact with France amid Russia fears. So just in case Russia decides to attack Moldova, France is now tied to Moldova, and they have to defend them, which means NATO has to defend Moldova. Even though they may or may not be a part of NATO, I'm not sure. But at this point, because they quickly signed this defense pact with France, now NATO is involved because France has to defend Moldova. Okay, this is just continuing to get more crazier by the day, guys. Next article, The Telegraph. Macron. West may need to save Ukraine if Russia makes breakthrough. Emmanuel Macron warned that the West may have to step in to save Ukraine if Russia makes a breakthrough on the Eastern Front. The French president produced maps to show opposition leaders invited to his palace and points to potential Russian breakthrough towards Odessa or Kiev. He told them there should be no more red lines in his country's involvement in the conflict. These are maps of the Ukrainian front line, freely available anywhere. Speaking after the 2.5-hour meeting, the party's chief said the talks with Macron had left them concerned, with some accusing him of seeking to exploit the conflict for domestic gain ahead of key European elections. It came as Lord Cameron said, Europe must rein in the wars in Ukraine and Gaza before the next U.S. president is sworn in. Speaking at Berlin press conference alongside Annalena Baerbock, the German foreign secretary said the crisis needs to be in the best possible place by the time of the presidential election. You see how everybody's trying to position themselves or fumbling over themselves, trying to position NATO against against the war with Russia and even everything going on in Gaza, because you have two completely different people running for the presidency of the United States. Who knows, guys? This is just leading to absolute madness, and everyone here in America feels it. People around the world feel it. All these wars are depending on America and us getting behind them and pushing the agenda, and that could all get torn apart and erased in November, and they can't allow that to happen. So what are they going to do between now and November, guys? This is what's should be extremely concerning to us at this point. Next article here, Newsweek. NATO moving missiles closer to Russia's borders. Okay, so not only is Russia moving nuclear weapons all around its country to prepare itself for nuclear war, here we go. NATO countries are implementing a rotational air defense model stationed in Lithuania in response to calls from the Baltic states to boost Europe's defense capabilities in the region. According to Lithuanian Defense Minister Arvydas Anusauskas, who spoke about the defense model at the press conference Thursday, the defense systems will be operational in his nation later this year. NATO countries agreed to creating a rotational system in which allied countries would deploy air defense systems to the Baltic states for a period of time during the Vilnius NATO summit in the summer. So everyone's moving their missiles. Everyone's moving their weapons into place. Russia's got nuclear weapons aimed all at us. We've got nuclear weapons ready to drop on them. And all it takes is one. All it takes is one, and the whole world is on fire, guys. All it takes is one, and America will be obliterated. All it takes is one, and Russia will be obliterated. All it takes is one, and all of Europe will be obliterated. You're talking about the whole world on fire. All it takes is one. All it takes is one. And where is the common sense? Where are any leaders right now with the wisdom and the fortitude and the courage to actually talk to these people and say whatever needs to be said to get them to hear and to listen? Because I'm not seeing it, I'm not hearing it, and we're on a fast train moving to oblivion, guys. Anuskas, as we continue, did not state whether Western countries are involved in the first round of air defenses being installed in Lithuania, but did say the equipment includes Patriot surface-to-air missile systems. The expectation is that this principle would not be a one-off thing for several months, but would cover all of our calendar months and significantly increase our air defense capabilities. Several European countries have raised concerns that Russia's war against Ukraine could eventually lead to a greater conflict between Moscow and NATO. The military alliance has taken several steps to bolster its defense systems along its eastern border in recent months, including by conducting trainings in the spring of over 90,000 troops from all 32 of the member states in countries that share a border with Russia, such as the Baltic nations and Poland. Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia have been some of the loudest members of NATO that have urged the Western Bloc to prepare for Russia's next offensive in the region. Estonia's foreign intelligence service, for example, said that Russia is preparing for war against NATO countries within the next 10 years. Oh, talk about the next 10 months, guys. How about just the next 10 weeks? Can we live that long? Next article. Media claims assassination attempt on Zelensky after Russian missile strikes near his motorcade. So apparently a few days ago, a missile was shot at Zelensky's motorcade, and it didn't hit him but killed a few people in his motorcade. And they're blaming Russia, saying Russia reportedly sent missiles or drones against the city at the very moment of their visit. Zelensky said explosions rang out while they toured Odessa. We heard the sound of sirens and explosions that took place near us. We did not have time to get to a shelter. There are emerging reports and allegations that this was a targeted assassination attempt. Next headline. Continuing, assassination attempt or message. Zelensky motorcade targeted by Russian missile. Zelensky was targeted by a Russian missile strike during a visit to Odessa in what appears to be an attempt to assassinate him. Zelensky's motorcade, which was about 150 meters from that of Greek Prime Minister Mitsotakis, when it was attacked by a Russian missile at 11:43 a.m. Was this a Russian attempt to assassinate Zelensky, or was it just a warning that Russia knows where he is and can get to him anytime they want? Perhaps it's something different. Perhaps a CIA plot to get rid of a failed asset. Who knows? Plot twists. Who knows how many twists there are actually in this plot. Next headline. Now, this is crazy, guys, right here. This is a picture. If you're looking at the video, if you're not, if you're listening to audio, I'm seeing a picture here. As the article says, Russia reveals intent for Ukraine. Map shows what will be left. And what I'm seeing in this map is half of Ukraine, more than half of Ukraine currently in red regions that Russian Security Council Deputy Chairperson Dmitry Medvedev described as Russia on March 4th. Okay, so if you're looking at video, you see this clearly. If you don't see the video, all I can tell you is if you look at a map of Ukraine and Russia, and you were to take a line and go almost just around Kiev to the right of it and move all the way down to the left below Kiev, all the way down to the very bottom of the sea there. That's all red, and Russia believes that's all their territory. And if this is an indication of what they're going to try to attempt to take from Ukraine in this war, we're not there yet. We're not close to there. They've gathered a lot of ground. Okay, they've gathered a lot of Ukraine's borders, but they've not gotten all the way to the edge of Kiev yet. But according to this map, if this is what they're going for, I don't know how it's going to happen if without a nuclear war taking place, guys. I don't know how this is going to happen. This is a massive takeover of half of Ukraine here. I mean, Ukraine is just a smidge of what it was. From Kiev all the way to Poland is all that's left of Ukraine by this picture, if you can't see it. And if you want to see it, I highly recommend that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can actually see the video. And also go to trappedintheus.com. And if you go to the About Me page down in the middle, there's the YouTube channel is always there with the latest video, and you can check that out on the website as well. Let's read the article. The collective West through NATO wanted to place U.S. missile defenses on Ukrainian territory so those missiles would have only about a 5-minute time to Moscow. Russia said no. Russia pointed out that no nation can defend itself from missiles that only have a 5-minute flight time between launch and impact. So the positioning of U.S. missiles on Ukraine soil was simply an intolerable security threat to Russia. The West didn't listen. Russia tried to negotiate what they called an ironclad, legally enforceable security guarantees, and the collective West scoffed and threw Russia's proposal into the trash, theoretically. Russia then reproposed those security guarantees by having their proposals hand-delivered to the White House, to NATO headquarters, and to the executive addresses for each NATO member country, with the additional warning that if Russia could not obtain security guarantees diplomatically, they would do so by military or military technical means. The West waited about 10 days before they scoffed again and threw the proposal theoretically in the trash again. Days later, Russia telephoned Ukraine President Zelensky and told him he had 5 hours to agree to Russia's security demands. Zelensky called both the British Home Office and the U.S. State Department, both of whom told him to ignore Russia's ultimatum. 2 hours later, after that deadline passed, Russian troops crossed the border into Ukraine. So, guys, this is a history lesson because that's exactly what happened. And the main way the Russian troops crossed into the border in Ukraine was when Donetsk was bombed and citizens were under attack by Ukrainian weapons, and Russia came in. But this is all what happened and transpired prior to that moment. And nobody can debate that. That's exactly what happened. So here we are, slightly over 2 years into the Ukrainian conflict, Russia conflict, and Russia is taking by force the territory it needs to protect itself from U.S. NATO missiles. Over 1 million troops are now dead. Just think about that, guys. We've lost 1 million troops, both on the Russia side and Ukrainian side. Their best men, their best sons. Mostly Ukrainians, but a considerable number of Russians. And according to this article here, all because the U.S. and NATO wanted to put U.S. missiles on Ukrainian territory. None of this had to be, yet here we are. Now we see the extent to which Russia will conquer to protect itself. The map is clear. Not only instead of figuring out that this must be the way things will be, the collective West is now talking about sending troops into Ukraine to fight Russia. Russia has long said such an act would mean war no one would win, which, as readers are well aware, means nuclear war. Yet French President Macron just this week doubled down on his idea to send troops to Ukraine. Well, part of no does Macron and NATO not understand. The world is being led into a nuclear conflict. It does not have to be. I would agree mostly with this assessment. Reuters, next article. Ukraine Zelensky meets on. Let me pause right here. Why is Ukraine so important, guys? Okay, what's going on here? What is happening? Well, there's a lot of speculation here. Okay, I can speculate too, I guess, but I don't have all the answers. Prophetically, there's some powerful prophetic words that have gone into details as to why, and I'll get into some of that in future podcasts. But when you think of a country, okay, that is under war and under attack, and they're not making land anymore, guys. If you are able to defend that land that's been bombed to oblivion, and you want to rebuild that country, all right, you got two different mechanisms happening here at the same time. You got the military industrial complex and billions and billions of dollars being spent on weapons, ammunition, being spent on people to fight, and the budgets that it takes to fight a war. And then once a war is over, you hope that you can rebuild your country. Well, I mean, most of your money is gone. So how do you get money to rebuild your country? And what do those people get for it? Well, here we go. Check this article out. This is leading us into tying some connected dots here. Okay. Ukraine Zelensky meets JP Morgan executives and other major investors in Davos. Ukrainian President Zelensky said he met with executives at JP Morgan, the largest U.S. lender, and other major international investors on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum on Tuesday. This is when they met in Davos back in January. It is important for us to attract private capital to the reconstruction of Ukraine. We hope that JP Morgan will help attract a large number of global investors and corporations to the Ukrainian economy, Zelensky said. JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, and other senior JP Morgan executives and top management of BlackRock, Bridgewater Associates, the Carlyle Group, Blackstone, Dell, ArcelorMittal took part in the meeting. Okay, remember all these names, guys. JP Morgan, BlackRock, Bridgewater Associates, the Carlyle Group, Blackstone, Dell, ArcelorMittal took part in the meeting. The economy ministry said about 100 senior executives joined the meeting, which focused on the need to bring in more private investment to help Ukraine build and modernize its economy and infrastructure devastated by nearly 2 years of Russian war. Ukraine's economy performed better than expected last year, with officials estimating gross domestic product at about 5% in 2023 after a 28.8% fall in 2022. The government expects GDP growth at 4% this year. Zelensky stressed the need to develop and implement financial instruments blending both private and public capital. Yulia, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name, but Yulia S., first deputy prime minister and economy minister, said the government had kept up economic reforms required to improve the investment climate and make doing business easier despite Russia's invasion. The Kiev government was also working to expand war insurance for businesses and wanted to strengthen its air defense further. Okay, so these bankers, these investment guys, okay, we got two different major conglomerates converging in this war to profit. Okay, we have the military industrial complex, who are all profiting, these companies who are creating the weapons and the ammunition, all right, and the services to make this war happen. And then we have the bankers who are going to come in and they're going to invest in the property in the country after it's been obliterated. They're going to help rebuild it, take some partial ownership, and whoever owns. So you should be asking yourself, who owns these companies that was in these meetings with Zelensky? Because they're going to have an ownership of Ukraine if they're investing hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in it, into its infrastructure and rebuilding it. And it is going to be a country. I mean, it's not going to just, at some point, there's still going to be people living there. So who's going to come in? Well, let's get some American bankers, get some American investment, and they'll profit from the rebuilding of it. That's why we have to win the war. That's why we can never allow Russia to take all of Ukraine. Because if they do, then the bankers won't make any money on the back end, and we'll lose everything that's been invested. And all the monies and billions of dollars that's been invested in Ukraine right now, they're looking for a way to get all that money back. And this is how they're going to get it back. and they won't get it back if Russia takes all of Ukraine. So is this why they're absolutely bloodthirsty for this war to defeat Russia and take back Ukraine? Because they want to own they want to own the deeds of this reinvestment conglomerate. Who are the people that owns these investment houses? Who's the people who own these banks? Ask yourself these questions, guys. You got to see between the lines and read the between the lines and see the agenda. Okay. The only part is they don't tell you is the millions and millions and millions of people. It's already a million. It's already a million lives that's been lost. How many more millions are going to have to be wiped out for these people to profit and get what they want? And do they even consider the cost? Or are we just all useless eaters living on this planet, and they're actually doing a service by getting rid of us so that the world can be a much better place and more sustainable? If you want to get into a mindset of these globalist sociopaths, that's probably somewhere to start. But that's just my 2 cents. All right. Next article. EU ambassadors are unanimously. I'm so sorry, guys. EU ambassadors are all ignoring, okay, I'll just say it that way, are all ignoring an invitation to talk from Lavrov. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has invited EU ambassadors to speak to Foreign Minister Lavrov, but EU ambassadors have canceled their participation. Russia says it will have terrible consequences. So even now, Russia's trying to have a conversation, apparently. We want to talk, guys. We don't want there to be nuclear war. We don't want to see millions and millions of people burned, countries wiped out and obliterated in a war that no one can win. Somebody's got to have a conversation. Somebody's got to be willing to sacrifice here. Can we at least have a conversation? And what, according to this, is no. Ambassadors sent to other countries are primarily responsible for being in contact with the government of their host country. They prepare meetings of politicians, negotiate economic issues, and also cultural and other issues. But their most important task is to contact the government of the host country. Ambassadors must not interfere in the internal affairs of their host country. The UN Charter, basis of international law, clearly defines this in Article 2. However, this does not prevent the ambassadors of the EU and its member states from interfering in Russian affairs by supporting the radical Russian opposition or making LGBT propaganda, which is prohibited in Russia. For the sake of completeness, LGBT is not banned or punished even in Russia. There are gay clubs and so on. It is only forbidden in Russia to propagate this. Imagine if the Russian ambassador to Germany would interfere in German politics, support Reich citizens effectively, for example, violate German laws. Would the federal government put up with it, or would it invite the Russian ambassadors to speak and demand that he refrain from doing so? That was what the Russian military of Foreign Affairs wanted to tell EU ambassadors about the hot phase of the Russian presidential campaign. As Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov, March in an interview, told, 2 days before the planned event, before the meeting, they sent us a note. We decided not to go there. Can you imagine relations with diplomatic countries whose ambassadors are afraid to meet the minister of the country where they are accredited? Lavrov said that his ministry has gathered a lot of material on how EU embassies in Moscow are preparing for our presidential election, what mechanisms for interferences that they use, and any projects that are created to support our non-systemic opponents. Thereupon, a Russian business portal asked the EU embassy in Moscow and the following answer to get. Our reaction followed the death of Alexei Navalny after the EU demands for an independent international investigation into the cause of death that has not been considered. So they don't want to talk. They don't want to have any conversations with Russia. They don't want to talk about peace. They don't want to do anything. All they want is Ukraine. All they want is that power. And they have to survive, or the new world order that we've all run in the West, that our leaders have ran for almost 100 years, will be tossed aside, and all the investment and the money they put into Ukraine will be lost. So whatever they got to do to win, guys, and they're not going to talk it over. They're not going to sit around and have tea and have coffee and trumpets and talk about this. They're going to obliterate Russia, or Russia's going to obliterate NATO, and it's one or the other until it's over. And that is how they see it, and there's no other way around it. And meanwhile, all of us are here trapped, waiting for it to happen, um, watching the skies for the apocalypse, holding on to our children a little closer every day, hugging them a little tighter every day, because we don't know when the day will come. Next article. Pope tells Ukraine, wave the white flag. This is something I didn't expect, all right? Because, the Pope on the outside is all about peace, but internally there's a whole nother mechanism going on, but I'm not going to get into that in this podcast. But nevertheless, Pope Francis was asked what he would tell Ukrainian President Zelensky, and his response was, surrender, you're defeated. He put it more gracefully, of course. His exact words were, I think that the strongest one is the one who looks at the situation, thinks about the people, and has the courage of the white flag and negotiates. The word negotiate is a courageous word. When you see that you are defeated and that things are not going well, you have to have the courage to negotiate. Now, guys, I mean, I have to admit, I mean, this is one person. If there was ever a person that could stand up, who had a small little voice of reason here, a little bit of wisdom, all right, Japan would have been obliterated. There'd been nothing left of that island if they did not negotiate their surrender after those nukes went off that we dropped on them. They would have been obliterated. They knew they were defeated. There was nothing else they could do. And that Prime Minister of Japan, whoever his name was, I'm sorry I don't have that information in front of me, but he saved the Japanese nation by surrendering. Okay. And whatever it cost, whatever happened at the end of the day, they brought it on themselves because they attacked Pearl Harbor. Okay. And the fact that he was courageous enough to know when he was beat and there was nothing that they could do, that changed the whole face of World War II. And the war was over. That was the final straw that took place. Okay. Eliminating Nazism, eliminating Hitler, and signing that peace treaty with Japan. Okay, that's what stopped nuclear war from taking over any further than where it was, and we were the only ones who had the bomb at that point. Okay, but now we all got the bomb. We all have the ability, okay, to wipe each other out. All it takes is one, and the one that we have is about 1,000 times more stronger than the one that was dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Just one. All right. And we have thousands of them. China, thousands of them. Russia, thousands of them. There are nuclear powers all over the world. All over the world. And they're all having to pick sides at this point. Which new world order are you fighting for? And here we are, all of us citizens in the wine press, getting thrown in as this thing unfolds. But here's the Pope saying, wave the white flag. And what was his response? Let's move on. So here's a second article just to confirm. Okay, this is real. All right. Pope Francis urges Ukraine to have courage of the white flag and negotiate end to war. But here we go. Kiev rejects Pope's white flag appeal. The Vatican should avoid repeating the mistakes of the past when talking about the conflict in Ukraine, foreign minister said. Pope Francis was wrong to suggest that Kiev should restart negotiations with Moscow. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba said, the pontiff ruffed some feathers in Ukraine this week by speaking about the importance of having the courage of the white flag. When it comes to the white flag, we know this Vatican strategy from the first half of the 20th century, he wrote on Twitter, apparently referring to the policy of neutrality pursued by Pope Pius VII during World War II. So, doesn't matter. Pope said, you guys got to sit down. You got to talk. You got to have a conversation. They're not even listening to the Pope, guys. This is the guy that demands that you serve the Vatican, okay? The Pope has, the Vatican has two keys. You got the spiritual power and you got the temporal power. I can break this all down for hours and hours and hours, guys. But the Pope, okay, has spiritual power over all souls. You cannot get to heaven unless you get through heaven, get to heaven through the Catholic Church, through the Pope, who is the face of Jesus on this planet, according to them. And number two, the temporal power, that every nation must come under the political will of the Pope. All right. And I guarantee you, America, the European countries, all these countries, okay, they're involved. They're all know what those two keys are. Okay. They all, under death, okay, have to obey. Or there's never been a disobedient nation to the Vatican in all its years, okay? There's never been one. They've all been destroyed. They've all been wiped out or came back begging for mercy after they tried to disrespect the Jesuits. But we're not going to get into all that today, okay? But here's the Pope, someone who is the first Jesuit Pope, by the way, in history. And they're even telling him, you need to take your white flag and go back and sit in your chair. We don't want to hear anything from you. And I guarantee you that is going to be regrettable. These guys are bloodthirsty and it's going to come back on them. And how many lives is it going to have to cost? Meanwhile, in Slovakia, the prime minister had a interesting quote. I'll say it's the quote of the day because this is kind of how all of us feel. At least this is the essence of trapped in the U.S. means, okay? Slovak Prime Minister Fico said the West sees that despite significant assistance, despite anti-Russian sanctions, Ukraine is simply not capable of winning. And here we go. You ready? And if we send military personnel from the EU and NATO to Ukraine, all we can do is lie, doomed on the balcony with cognac and a cigar, waiting for the world apocalypse. Unquote. All we can do is lie doomed on the balcony with a cognac and a cigar waiting for the world apocalypse. They know. They know. The moment military personnel from the EU and NATO is in Ukraine, but we're already there. So does that mean he's sitting on the balcony right now? He knows he's doomed. He knows all of us are feeling that doom. We're feeling that burden. We're feeling that anxiety, that burden, like that weight on our shoulders, the urgency that's in the air. Okay. We're so close, guys. We're so close to the end. There's no way World War III does not play out in front of us. And we don't have much time. I'm going to keep it moving here. We don't have much time left actually for the podcast either, but we'll move into some other headlines here. Moving to the Middle East real quickly. We'll go through a couple headlines here from AFP News. Saudi king calls for end to heinous crimes in Gaza in Ramadan message. So Saudi Arabia's King Salman has called in his Ramadan message for the international community to bring an end to the heinous crimes taking place in Gaza, where Israel's war with Hamas has been raging for more than 5 months. Speaking as custodian of Islam's two holiest sites, King Salman gave thanks on Sunday for the blessings bestowed upon the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but noted the war and besieged Gaza would cast a shadow over the holy month of fasting and prayer. And Ramadan, I think, starts today. It's either today or tomorrow. He said, as we witness the arrival of Ramadan this year, our hearts are heavy with sorrow for the ongoing suffering of our Palestinian brothers facing relentless aggression. We call upon the international community to uphold its responsibilities to put an end to these heinous crimes and ensure the establishment of safe humanitarian and relief corridors. Next article. Interesting here. All Israeli hostages dead? Hamas fails to provide list of living ceasefire negotiations halted. So ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas have exploded because Hamas failed to provide a list of living hostages, and all are now feared dead. That's where we are, guys. I mean, even normal citizens in Gaza are dead. I mean, they have no food. They're starving to death. They have no water. If a plane drops a thing of supplies on it, they're literally ravaging like the shipments. Like if Israel brings the shipments in, which they have, and guarded them, people ran to the shipments because they're literally fighting for their lives, and they got shot down for it. That just happened last week. So it would be a miracle if any of the hostages were still living. Well, Hamas failed to provide a list during negotiations. No delegation will go to Cairo, and if Hamas wants to blow up the negotiations, there will be consequences. Israeli Channel 12, according to an Israeli source. So if they don't have any hostages left, guys, Rafah is going to be obliterated, and all those people, all those children and women, innocent lives. Okay, but they're all going to be wiped out. But is that a heinous crime to those who are ordering this war from Israel? And I'm talking about more the Zionists than I am talking about Israel in general, or the Jews, which I spoke of earlier today in the podcast. Okay. Let's see. Continued article here by Zero Hedge. Delegations leave Cairo with no Gaza ceasefire progress, no solutions in sight. Yeah, you have no hostage list. There's nothing to negotiate here. If you have no more hostages and we don't have their names or bodies, and you don't know where they are, and we don't know where they are, there's nothing but hell to pay. Israel, for its part, didn't even send a delegation to Cairo and has only been engaged through intermediaries after Prime Minister Netanyahu called Hamas conditions delusional, particularly the request of Israel military to withdraw all forces from Gaza. Next article. Here we go. Let's get into the mind of some of the people within Israel who are pushing this war. You ready for this? Rabbi, quote, "We must kill them all, Palestinians, including women and children. We must kill them all." Quote, this is quote from Lord Bebo. That is his title. My Lord Bebo on Twitter, okay, or on X. "We must kill them all, not only those who take up arms against us. It is clear we must also kill their women and children. This is the generation that wants to kill us in the future, and it is the women who give birth to these children." Guys, this is the radical, crazy madness thought that is, and the perception that is coming out of some Israel corners, okay, that is fueling the fire. In their mindset, this is why they're killing the women and the children. In this mindset, this is why all children 5 years old and older are considered Hamas. And every female, every woman is considered. This is the mindset. He let us in to why they're killing all the women and the children. If you listen to this right here, this is a generation that wants to kill us in the future, and it is the women who give birth to these children. We got to wipe them all out. Lord, help us. Lord, help us. Protect the women and children in Gaza, Lord. Jesus, come soon. Next article. Breaking news. Israel bombing residential areas of Damascus. So Israel's now bombing just straight up houses, apartments, going into another country, a sovereign country of Syria, and just randomly bombing apartments and homes. I mean, what if Syria sent planes into Israel and just started dropping bombs on houses in Israel? What would Israel do? What would Israel do? We see what they did with what happened on October 7th. And it was a just response. Initially, we got to eliminate the threat from all those people that came in and killed and kidnapped all these innocent people. We got to get them all back, and we got to eliminate the minds of the people who are responsible for that. I completely agree. You got to respond. But Israel knows it's a sovereign nation. Well, Syria is a sovereign nation too, but they're not allowed to defend themselves. This is okay. Like they can just drop bombs wherever they want and nothing happens for it. Nothing comes against them. What are we doing here? Continuing with the article, within a single day alone, Israel has dropped bombs on Gaza, South Lebanon, and Syria. This could be called terrorism. The airstrikes was conducted by means of Delilah, 2 cruise missiles which were launched above Lebanon. According to a radio station affiliate with the Assad regime, the attack was carried out against 2 targets in the village of Hujara on the outskirts of the suburb of Saida Zinab. According to the report, there are casualties and a fire broke out at the site. Sources from Iran indicated 16 members of the Iran Revolutionary Guard were killed in the strike. So that's who Israel was trying to get rid of. Next article. Israel says war against Hezbollah if no deal by March 15th. Today's March 11th, guys. A Lebanese newspaper linked to Hezbollah groups claims that Israel has set a March 15th deadline for a diplomatic deal. The paper also claims Americans think a diplomatic settlement between Beirut and Jerusalem will have to include a solution to the border disputes. In particular, the Mount Dove area known as Lebanon at the Sheba farms and the deployment of the Lebanese army in the south. So Israel says there's going to be all-out war against Hezbollah if there's no deal in 4 days. So not just Gaza, they're going to go after Hezbollah. They're going to go after Iran. They're going to go after Syria. They're going to go after Yemen. They're going to go after them all. And when does it end? And America's involved somehow in this too. We got troops over there too. We have input on who's killed and who's not killed too. We're probably helping targeting over there too. Continuing on here, guys. Israel jet intercepts inbound drone from Syria in escalation. So Syria decided to respond. I guess they decided to send a drone in to do some damage, and Israeli jet intercepted it. As an Israel Air Force fighter jet was scrambled and shot down a suspicious aerial target, that flew into Israeli airspace from Syria. Israel media citing the IDF believes it was a drone. However, a few details were given, and the military says it's unclear precisely who was behind the attack. Israel has said both Hezbollah and Iranian officers and troops have long been present in Syria, and the Israeli Defense Forces strikes their positions at least once, at least on a weekly basis at this point. Syria did near the start of the Gaza war within days after Hamas' October 7th attack fire rockets into occupied Golan Heights territory, but that was essentially a one-off. Hezbollah has named 232 members who have been killed by Israel during the ongoing skirmishes, mostly in Lebanon, but some also in Syria. Next article. Now here's interesting. We're moving into the Asia guys, okay? Article headline: U.S. stations special forces permanently on Taiwan. Okay, U.S. Special Forces troops will be permanently stationed in Taiwan, UDN confirms. China earlier warned they would view such a thing as an invasion. Along with Marines stationed on the island, U.S. Special Forces are now reportedly permanently based in Taiwan to deter Chinese aggression on the disputed territory. U.S. has now also established a joint command center to coordinate the defense of the island from Chinese invasion. Over 1 year ago, China made clear the stationing of U.S. forces on Taiwan would be viewed by them as an invasion and they would respond as such. Now we wait and we get to see what they do. So we're not just poking bears. All right. We're not just helping support genocides. We're poking the Chinese dragon too. And I understand the situation there with Taiwan. I understand their right to defend themselves and be a sovereign nation. I am completely in support of that. But if you take a war breaking out in Ukraine and Russia, you take a war breaking out in the Middle East, and you take a war and an invasion of Taiwan from China that potentially involves Japan, that potentially involves North Korea and South Korea, how can America survive? How can we fight all that? How can we manage all that? We've given so much ammunition to Ukraine already. I mean, we've already emptied out how much of our resources. We think we're going to be around for years and years to just be able to rebuild and replenish that. And we just have all the time in the world to run off the clock and not have to worry about replenishing those quickly. Like, guys, we cannot defend all three of those fronts, all four really of those fronts. We can't. And defend our own nation. We can't even defend our own border. We can't even defend our own people. God help us. Next article. Leaked hacking files spur concerns of China weakening U.S. for war. China communist regime has engaged in a worldwide campaign of cybercrime and leading experts to believe that the United States is failing to respond swiftly enough to counter the threat. In the current era of cyber, it's all about speed. This indicates that the Chinese Communist Party and its proxies are engaged in a robust and global cybercrime campaign that aims to both destabilize the regime's foes and position itself for potential war with the United States. This is an extraordinary threat, says Mr. Mills, who previously served as the Director of Cybersecurity Policy, Strategy, and International Affairs at the Department of Defense. A cache of leaked documents that surfaced late February implicated the regime's direct involvement in overseas cyber espionage. The documents belong to a criminal hacking group called iSoon, which masquerades as a legitimate business in China. The leaked files revealed the group's infiltration into government departments in India, South Korea, Thailand, Vietnam, and as well as NATO organizations. Files included product manuals, marketing materials, employee lists, chat records, financial information, and details about foreign infiltration efforts. Some of the documents that were verified by the Associated Press show that the majority of the group's clients are based within China's regional security bureaus and the CCP's Ministry of Public Security. So I don't have to go into all the different things that we've had. What we had almost all the phones go down a week or two ago. AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. We had phones out all over the country for a day. And then Super Tuesday comes and we have Facebook out, we have Instagram out, we have WhatsApp out. And then an earlier article that I had, we talked about the GPS being out over in Eastern Europe. So cybercrime, this is happening everywhere. We lean so much on the internet and so much on um, uh, cybersecurity being intact, and China's ahead of us, guys. They're doing so much right now to put themselves in a position, like they said, to position itself for potential war with the United States. And our eyes are completely on Ukraine, our eyes are on the Middle East, and we got one eye slightly looking every once in a while over at China and Taiwan. But I guarantee you, they need our full attention, and they're not getting it, and they're taking full advantage of it, and they know it. And I don't know if anybody gets it here. I really don't. A few more small articles, guys, and we'll get into the final part of the podcast. Zero Hedge. Why are they creating $1 trillion of debt every 100 days? I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but an article came out last week that was really interesting. Apparently, from 2000 to 2007, while waging two wars in the Middle East, the U.S. annual federal deficit averaged $220 billion per year. And many fiscal conservatives thought that was outrageously out of control. Well, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, and the whatever he calls them, and Congress and the rest of the deep state calling the shots in this military empire of delusion and debt basically said, hold my beer. Now it requires, you ready for this? $1 trillion of new debt every 100 days to achieve nothing but to remain static economically. Just to pay our interest, we go into debt $100 trillion every 100 days. But all is well, guys. The regime media pundits and cabal on Wall Street tell us the economy is doing great. No recession in sight. All is well. The dumbed down and distracted, ignorant masses don't realize all the reported economic growth is created by the government, enabled by the Fed, spending billions on their wars in Ukraine and the Middle East, funneling the money into the military industrial complex, paying for the transportation, feeding, and housing of illegal invading hordes, hiring more government drones to harass the citizenry, and desperately trying to prop up a corrupt, tottering empire in its final death throes. Oh, guys, 100 days, every 100 days, we have to spend $1 trillion to pay the interest on our debt, guys. This is how terrible our financial position is in America. This is how weak we have become. And I'm not going to get into whether it was Trump or whether it was Biden. Listen, are we more free today than we were 4 years ago? Are we more free now than we were 8 years ago? Are we more free now than we were 20 years ago? All right. This whole country has lost its way, and it's been many years in the making. And ever since September 11th, 2001, we've seen the loss of privacy. We've seen the loss of the Constitution. We've seen the eroding of the Constitution, and it's just continued and continued and continued into the place where it's at now, which is hanging on by a thread, whatever shreds of thread that we have as a nation that's holding us together. And it's not going to be long. The Lord has shown us, He's spoken to us about such things. Last week, I went into scripture and talked about some of this and brought the prophetic word. And I'm just going to continue because I want to make sure that you guys get this and it's understood. Okay, so I'm going to go into Revelation, and I'm going to go into 18 again. Okay, I'm going to read this again, guys. I'm going to read verses 1 through 8, and then I'm going to read the prophetic word. Okay. Revelation 18, after this I saw another angel coming down from heaven. He had a great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. With a mighty voice he shouted, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She's become a dwelling for demons and a haunt for every impure spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable animal. For all nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries. Then I heard another voice from heaven say, "Come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not receive any of her plagues. For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. Give back to her as she has given. Pay her back double for what she has done. Pour her a double portion from her own cup. Give her as much torment and grief as the glory and luxury she gave herself. In her heart she boasts, I sit enthroned as a queen. I am not a widow, and I will never mourn. Therefore, in one day, her plagues will overtake her: death, mourning, and famine. She will be consumed by fire, for mighty is the Lord who judges her." I'm going to keep going just for a little bit. "When the kings of the earth who committed adultery with her and shared luxury with her see the smoke of her burning, they will weep and mourn over her. Terrified at her torment, they will stand afar off and cry, 'Woe, woe to you, great city, you mighty city of Babylon. In 1 hour your doom has come. The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargoes anymore. Cargoes of gold, silver, precious stones, pearls, fine linen, purple silk, scarlet cloth, every sort of citron wood, and articles of every kind made of ivory, costly wood, bronze, iron, and marble, cargoes of cinnamon, spice, incense, myrrh, frankincense, wine, olive oil, fine flour, wheat, cattle, sheep, horses, carriages, and human beings sold as slaves. They will say, the fruit you long for is gone from you. All your luxury and splendor have vanished, never to be recovered. The merchants who sold these things and gained their wealth from her will stand off terrified at her torment, and they will weep and mourn and cry out, 'Woe, woe to you, great city, dressed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, the glittering with gold, precious stones, and pearls. In 1 hour, such great wealth has been brought to ruin.'" I'm going to stop there. Guys, this is America. Babylon is America. Revelation 18 is very clear. Every one of us know it's true. If you have any clue about what's going on this planet, you have any slight fear of God and respect his word, it's never been more clear than right now. And everything we see happening in the news as we speak right now is all leading to what God has already spoken of. And what is that? That Babylon will fall in one day. In 1 hour, she'll be brought to ruin. Well, how can that be? Well, that we asked those questions too. I wondered for years and years how it would come. I've had the prophecies, known about them for years and years, read the word my whole life. And yet here we are. We have Russia and NATO on fire, literally waiting to bomb one another. And we have a target on us. Okay, guys, we are not oblivious to this. If anything, we are that queen, right? They can never do that to America. No one's ever going to bomb us. No one's going to ever try to take us and ruin us and obliterate us. Who would dare do that? Our enemies under threat, when their lives are threatened and they have no other choice. Like, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen if we keep continuing to sink Russian ships, if we continue to keep attacking Russian cities, if we continue to keep supplying weapons to Israel and they keep bombing Middle Eastern cities, if we supply weapons to Taiwan and they decide to attack China with those weapons, or South Korea against North Korea? When does it come to a point, okay, when America gets what she has reaped? for other nations, and it's sown back on her. When, okay, the Lord has pronounced it. And he said it in his word right here in 1 hour. Okay. And we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it again. Today's prophecy is again by Vicki Goforth Parnell, mighty, mighty woman of God. One of the most profound prophets, I would say, in this day, in this hour, who's hearing from the Lord. There's others, and I've read several of those, and I'm actually going to create a tab on the trappedintheus.com website that's going to list all the prophecies that I've been reading and many more, so you guys can go in there and read them for yourselves. But I just have two quick ones, okay, and then we're going to end the podcast. And this is from Vicki Goforth Parnell on April 24, 2023. Wretched Babylon, your last breath soon comes. Jeremiah 7:16. Therefore pray not thou for this people, neither lift up cry nor pray for them, neither make intercession to me, for I will not hear thee. And this is the Lord speaking. Daughter, do not pray for this nation anymore. I will not answer them nor hear their cries. But for those who truly love, know, and serve me, I will spare those who are mine, one way or the other, but not this ungodly, evil nation of Babylon. Wretched she has become in my sight, my eyes. Her whoredoms against me, her holy God, keep multiplying one right after each other. My hand now moves swiftly against Babylon. Once known to me as America the brave, the free, and the beautiful, your stink reaches to the heights of my heaven. Your filth is like no other people before you. I died for you, even gave my life for all to go free of sin's bondage. Now you shall wear the chains of bondage, both in the spiritual and of the physical type. Into captivity you shall go, but only after you are destroyed in less than one of your hours, O Babylon of old. Who is now Babylon of new? You shall burn and melt by hottest raging fire, destruction, devastation, calamity upon calamity, woe upon woe. No food shall you have except for my holy remnant. For upon the dropping of such weapons, most remaining food supplies shall be far spent within weeks. Weeks, I say. Did you prepare for this? Did you heed my warnings? So many people, including my very own, began their preparations. But because someone scoffed at them, someone declared you're being motivated by fear instead of obedience. Some of you, because I did not level your nation in the timely manner you thought I should, that I should move, never taking into account that I am a God of mercy who moves by compassion of love. You quit your preservations instead of seeking me first in what to do. O Babylon, you have not long to take your last moment of free air. I strike you hard, O wicked, wicked nation, who leads other nations astray with your idol worship and immorality. If not for my remnant, who shall be left behind, I would wipe your existence off my earth until no traces would ever be found. Not like Sodom and Gomorrah, whose remains have been discovered, proving true my swift judgment's hand upon these two twin unholy sisters and their fornicators and whoredoms. Come out, my children, come out. Be ye separate. Do not partake in her great sins, any of her sins, for Babylon, America falls and shall rise no more. This is the death of this once great nation. Those of you my spirit is calling and drawing you to come to me. It is time to decide and make your choice, not only in Babylon, but within your world. Antichrist is risen, and soon shall display his control and power in the days to come. No longer only ruling from beneath the surface of the seas and land and the oceans deep. My little children, stay close to me and in me. Judgment's hand falls hard, fast, and quickly, delivering its devastating blows by my righteous right hand. But I shall huddle over you, my children, like a hen her precious little chicks. Daughter, it's time. Pray no longer for your ungodly nation. Prepare for departure in me, your Savior, Jesus Christ. So guys, this is the first prophecy, and there's several scriptures. Jeremiah 15:1-7, Jeremiah 7:16, Jeremiah 11:14, Hosea 7:7, Jeremiah 2:31 through 35, Jeremiah 11:11, Jeremiah 12:12, Revelation 18:1 through 9, Matthew 23:37, 1 Samuel 12:22, Genesis 4:41, this whole chapter, Psalms 91, 1 and 2, 2 Corinthians 6:17, 1 Peter 2:9, Psalm 79:6, and Jeremiah 5:22 through 31. Read all those. It's listed on the video here if you guys are seeing it. Test the scriptures. Bring all this to the Lord in prayer. I got one more to read you from the same, from Vicki Goforth Parnell. Brought forth on February 24th, 2022. This is the day that war started in Ukraine. The very day. Here's the word for my people, daughter. Bombs will explode. Missiles shall fall. You have been judged by me, the Savior of all. What will you do, America? Will you finally repent? Watch closely to what you are seeing in Ukraine, because within a few steps more, this will be you, O harlot bride. Your unfaithfulness has reaped into your bosom galore. Woes, destruction, and chaos, and soon so much more. But for my children who trust in me, I say this. Times of woes, in times of despair, just call on me and find my true peace everywhere. Little children, continue the good fight of faith, for soon I'm returning. You must endure to the end, children, to the end. 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and forgive their sin and heal their land. A couple other scriptures he has here, 2 Peter 3:9, Proverbs 28:13, Isaiah 26:3, Philippians 4:7, Galatians 6:7. You guys got to get your lives right with the Lord. You got to prepare your hearts. If you're listening to me right now and you have fallen away from the Lord, you grew up in church or have heard the word preached to you before and you believed in Jesus but fell away, and you're living your own life right now and you haven't prayed in a while and you haven't read your word in a while and you're just kind of holding on and doing your own thing, the Holy Spirit's calling you right now, calling you to come back to him. All it takes is one time to get on your knees, fall on your face if you have to, and cry out to the Lord and just repent. Get your life right with him. He's waiting for you. He's knocking on the door, waiting for you. He's been longing to spend time with you. He's been knocking on your door for years. And you've grown accustomed to ignoring the knocks. Your conscience is kind of flared out and dissipated and faded to the point where maybe sometimes you don't even feel it anymore. The Holy Spirit's ready to come back and fill you with his love, fill you with his peace. You cannot make it and survive what is coming, guys, unless you are literally sitting under the protection of the Lord God, Jesus, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He's the only one who can protect you. He's the only one who can sustain you. He's the only one who can feed you, lead you, and guide you during these next days, weeks, hours, and months coming upon us in this nation. This is not a joke. This is God's mercy extended to you in time to repent. That's what God's mercy is. It's time. Extended in mercy so you can get your life right with the Lord. You don't have much time left. Get your heart right with him. Read your word and do what it says every day. Just every single day, make some time to read your word. Make some time every day to talk to God. You don't have to spend hours, but he'll lead you into taking time out to hear from him. And you need to lean into the Lord and just try to do more of what he's telling you every day. Try to do less of what the world's trying to tell you to do and do more every day of what he's trying to tell you to do. Don't wait. People, do not wait. Don't wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow is not promised. Tomorrow, it could be the day. The Lord says it's only 1 hour. There's an hour coming on America, unlike any other hour in its history, where every part of this nation will be turned upside down, and it will never be like what it was. And it will be chaos, confusion, death, and destruction all over our country. And you look outside and we see the birds, we see spring, we see beautiful skies, spring break, and everything that America has been for hundreds of years. And we sit just like that queen thinking, we'll never mourn. This will never happen to us. Guys, listen, the Lord is warning you. He's warning all of us. America will be obliterated. It will be taken over and handed over to our enemies. And those of us who are still here to have to endure those times, if you are not right with the Lord, you don't know when your day or hour comes. And you will not be able to get back those moments like right now where you have the time where the Holy Spirit's convicting you and leading you to just pray. So I would encourage you guys, pray, repent, get your heart right with the Lord, read his word and do more of what he says every day. Prepare for the times that are coming. If martial law was declared tomorrow, how long would you be able to survive with what supplies you have in your home right now? You don't have much time, guys. You got to save up. You got to save up on supplies. You got to get you some water, get you some dry food, get you an alternative energy source if you can. Get some matches, get some candles. If you can get a power generator, a fuel generator, fine. If you can get a solar power generator, even better. Get you something you can defend your home with. All right. I'm not telling you need to get 400 guns and 1,000,000 rounds. I'm telling you, you need to be able to defend your home in whatever means necessary. There's martial law and there's no food left. Can you imagine what your streets are going to look like, what your neighbors are going to do when they can't feed themselves, when they can't feed their children and they're starving? The Lord said it very clearly. Everything that's happening in Ukraine, everything that's happening in Gaza, okay, that's coming to America, guys. But with the nukes, it's coming to America with the fire, sickness, plague. People will be crazy, roaming the streets, looking for whatever they can find, destroying anyone in their way. Can you defend your home? Do you have some cash on hand? Don't leave all your money in the bank. I'm not giving you financial advice technically, okay? I'm just giving you wisdom. Things that I consider, okay? You can take everything I'm saying to the Lord in prayer. But I would highly recommend you have some cash on hand somewhere that you can have put away. Small denominations. People are not going to give change for $100 bills. And when the dollar becomes worthless, you need to have precious metals to barter with. Get you some silver. Get you, if you can afford some gold. If you can afford some silver, get you some silver coins, silver ounces, silver rounds, whatever you can get that you might be able to potentially barter with. Get your shortwave radio somewhere where you can hear communication coming, alternate ways to communicate with family or loved ones, CB radio, walkie-talkie, satellite phone, etc. I definitely would recommend you need to have at least 3 to 6 months of supplies per family member in your house. So if you have 2 people in your house, you need to have a minimum, to me, at least a minimum of a year's worth of food and water. A minimum. And I'm talking ration. If you're really smart, then you would have more because we don't like to eat ration food, okay? But whatever you can get that's dry food, right, that you can cycle in and out of your pantry, store up on, get you some food in Mylar bags. I'm currently working on some potential sponsors that I'll give you some more information on that in future podcasts of some people that I would personally recommend you get some of their products. And if you are interested in sponsoring this podcast, reach out to me at askkb@trappedintheus.com. askkb@trappedintheus.com. Do you have an alternative place to go? It's away from the city where you live. If you live downtown, if you live in the suburbs where you're surrounded by people, if you live in a bad neighborhood, or on the outskirts, do you have somewhere you can go that's in the country, somewhere away from town, somewhere that maybe you can build another community or have already built another community, and you guys can work together to grow food and protect one another? You need to consider this and take it serious. And how are you going to get there? All right. If a nuclear bomb goes off anywhere near us or over our country, your car is not going to work. Your house is not going to have any electric. All the power is going to be gone. The grid's going to be wiped out. All right. I personally have an EMP shield in my car. All right. It hooks up to your battery. It's super simple. And I don't even have a sponsorship with them, but I'm telling you guys, you need to go to empshield.com, and you put one of those little contraptions in your car, hook it up to your battery, and if an EMP goes off, it will not touch your car and fry everything in there electronically. It will keep the surge in the box and reset itself. And you might be the only car out of 10,000 or however many in your neighborhood that can still drive when everyone else can't go nowhere. How important would that be in a moment like that? These are things that are available out there. Okay. You need to look at that. And finally, I would just say, from now till that time comes, I'm just trying to create awareness, guys. Get your heart right with the Lord, get your life right with him. But you need to take seriously what's happening. But at the same time, don't panic to the point where you just become unusable and you lose your mind. Okay. Continue doing what you're doing every day. Continue to go to work. Continue to pay your bills. All right. Continue with everything what you're doing, but you need to be preparing at the same time. Keep your wits about you. Stay wise. Stay humble. Stay teachable. Keep pursuing your dreams and passions. Okay. But just know tomorrow isn't promised. The Lord's judgments are coming to America. You need to stay close to him. Trust him that he's going to protect you in the days to come. Please follow us on IG at Trapped in the US. We have a Facebook also as well at Trapped in the US. Our YouTube, as I said before, is Trapped in the US. Rumble at Trapped in the US. And again, please support our channel on Patreon at Trapped in the US podcast. Even if it's $5 a month, guys, it would tremendously help the channel. If I can just get 100 people to do that, that would be an extra, $500 a month. That would help pay for the channel. If I can get 200 people on there, that'd be $1,000 a month. That would definitely help pay for the channel. You're not getting this news from anywhere, guys. You're not even hearing this stuff, and someone's connecting the dots between the news and scripture and biblical prophecy. So if the Lord's leading you, please feel free to give to this podcast. And I pray God's blessing on all of you. Stay safe until next time. KB signing off. Trapped in the US podcast. Take care.